Welcome to College Briefing. The content of the briefing includes why IKEA is betting on the high street to win over younger shoppers. Author Melissa Lucashenko on playing with black and white binaries. One Victorian school has 61 portable buildings. See how your school rates. Why no one's going into accounting. Plant-based meat industry on a mission to rebrand itself as healthy option. Why IKEA is betting on the high street to win over younger shoppers. Telegraph. IKEA's UK and Ireland chief executive, Peter Jelkaby, has confirmed that the furniture giant will continue to open small city centre stores to attract a new generation of customers after shutting its Tottenham megastore. Jelkaby stated that the company plans to open more high street stores to remain relevant as shopping habits change. The decision to close the Tottenham store last year marked only the second time IKEA had shut a large store in the UK and came 17 years after its opening. IKEA blamed the decision to close the store on changing shopping behaviors as the pandemic accelerated the shift to ordering furniture online. Over a third of IKEA's sales were made online last year, compared to just under a fifth in 2019. The company is hoping to win business with inner-city customers who do not have cars and is exploring the possibility of opening more city locations. Author Melissa Lucashenko on playing with black and white binaries. The Sydney Morning Herald. Melissa Lucashenko, an Australian author and winner of both the Miles Franklin Literary Award and TV's Millionaire Hot Seat, has released a new novel called Edenglassie. The book is a historical epic set in colonial Brisbane during the time when Aboriginal people still outnumbered white colonists. Lucashenko drew inspiration for the novel from Reminiscences of Early Queensland by Tom Petrie, a book that chronicles the experiences of a Scottish-born explorer in the Moreton Bay Penal Colony. Lucashenko's novel explores the uneasy coexistence and interactions between Indigenous Australians and white settlers at the Queensland frontier, highlighting mutual curiosity, suspicion, economic codependence, and outbreaks of violence. The book is structured with dual timestamps, one set in the 1850s and the other in 2024, to capture the layering of modernity on the ancient landscape of Australia's Indigenous people. Lucashenko, herself of Aboriginal descent, uses her writing to challenge stereotypes and confront racism. She believes that her success as an author has not made her feel safe, as she has always been aware of the vulnerability and lack of safety that women and Indigenous people face in society. Lucashenko's work is part of a wider movement of truth-telling and Indigenous storytelling in Australia, with authors like Bruce Pascoe and Tara June Winch also gaining popularity among non-Indigenous readers. One Victorian school has 61 portable buildings. See how your school rates. The Sydney Morning Herald. The use of portable buildings in Victoria's schools is increasing as a result of growing student enrolments. The Victorian School Building Authority claims that portable classrooms are a cost-effective way to deal with fluctuating enrollments, but principals argue that they are eating into open play spaces and that existing schools are being overlooked for upgrades. Figures obtained by The Age show that there were 5,761 portable classroom buildings at 1,130 state schools as of August this year. Some schools have more than 60 portable buildings, which principals say are becoming permanent fixtures and are consuming playgrounds. Why no one's going into accounting. Wall Street Journal. The median, inflation-adjusted pay for young accountants has stagnated while salaries have risen in other fields such as finance, marketing, logistics, and consulting, according to a Wall Street Journal analysis. This pay disparity is causing fewer people to choose accounting careers, which is creating a shortage of accountants. Some of the largest college accounting programs have seen their enrollment numbers decline, leading to greater workloads for existing accountants. More than 300,000 accountants have left the profession between 2019 and 2022, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This shortage is a sharp turnaround from 15 years ago, when accounting became appealing due to its stability after the 2008 financial crisis. The stagnant pay is attributed to supply and demand, as companies were not pressed to increase entry-level earnings when they had plenty of students to recruit. Higher starting salaries in other fields were the top reason why non-accounting majors decided against the field. The number of undergraduate and master's enrollees in accounting programs has fallen by almost half since 2017 at some universities. To counteract this, professors are trying to enliven course descriptions, introduce students to the field earlier in their academic careers, and integrate recently buzzy issues such as blockchain and cryptocurrency into the curriculum. Ultimately, pay for accountants will have to rise to attract more students to the field, according to George Young, who directs the accounting school at Florida Atlantic University. Plant-based meat industry on a mission to rebrand itself as healthy option. Financial Times. Plant-based meat manufacturers are increasing their marketing efforts to win back consumers who have turned away from the products due to concerns over additives and processing. Falling sales, insolvencies, and declining financing have plagued the industry, with critics arguing that plant-based meat is expensive and fails to replicate the taste of animal meat. However, the perception that the products are unhealthy and contain too many additives is the most damaging. Between 2020 and 2022, the percentage of U.S. consumers who believed plant-based meats were healthy dropped from 50% to 38%. In response, Beyond Meat launched a campaign focused on product ingredients and manufacturing processes, while Impossible Foods created ads emphasizing the lack of cholesterol and lower saturated fat content in its products. The plant-based dairy industry has successfully convinced consumers that oat milk and plant-based cheese are better for them than dairy products, and the plant-based meat sector is hoping to achieve the same result. Boomers and millennials have each other's backs. Financial Times. Contrary to popular belief, millennials and baby boomers share many of the same attitudes and values, according to a study by researchers at Nuffield College, Oxford. The generations are equally supportive of new affordable housing, while young adults are nearly as in favor of increased social care spending for the elderly as they are for themselves. There are only slight differences between the two groups' preferences on economic policy. The main area of disagreement is immigration. However, the study also found that the two generations are sensitive to the challenges faced by the other. How long can the entrepreneurship boom last? Financial Times. The surge in business creation seen during the pandemic may not be sustainable in the long term, according to a recent study by Ryan Decker of the Federal Reserve Board and John Haltiwanger of the University of Maryland. While there was a significant increase in business applications during the pandemic, particularly in the outskirts of big cities, it is uncertain whether this boom is a temporary response to new patterns of demand related to remote work. Furthermore, the study found that the businesses created during the pandemic tend to be smaller and less likely to survive. Ghost guns showing up at crime scenes in Canada but RCMP not keeping statistics. The Toronto Star. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, does not keep records on the use of 3D printed ghost guns in crimes across the country, according to an email from the force. Ghost guns are firearms without serial numbers that are assembled from individual parts or 3D printers. These weapons are becoming more common in both Canada and the US, but the RCMP says it does not collect statistics on their use. Experts have called for more data to be collected on the number of 3D printed guns seized and the regions where they are most prevalent. Putin says Ukraine would last a week if Western military support stops. Al Jazeera. Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed that Ukraine would not survive for more than a week without Western military and financial aid. His comments come amid concerns that political turmoil in the US could jeopardize crucial military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Putin also alleged that Ukraine had lost over 90,000 troops since its counteroffensive against Russian forces began in June. Meanwhile, EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell warned that the EU could not replace the US as Ukraine's primary donor, adding that Europe cannot fill the funding gap left by the US. Labour wins Rutherglen by-election in boost for election hopes. Financial Times. The UK Labour Party achieved an unexpected victory in a by-election in Scotland, winning almost 59% of the vote in Rutherglen and Hamilton West. The result, which saw a 20-point swing from the Scottish National Party, SNP, has raised hopes that Labour can challenge the SNP's dominance in Scotland and perform well in the upcoming UK general election. The victory is a boost for Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer, who will use the result to bolster his claim to be a future Prime Minister. That's all for today's news. As we wrap up, let's take a look at the key takeaways from today's stories. First, we learned that IKEA is adapting to changing shopping habits by opening small city centre stores to attract younger customers. The closure of their Tottenham megastore was a response to the shift towards online shopping accelerated by the pandemic. By opening more high street stores, IKEA hopes to cater to inner-city customers who don't have cars. Next, we explored the work of Australian author Melissa Lucashenko and her new novel Eden Glassy, which delves into the complex relationship between Indigenous Australians and white settlers in colonial Brisbane. Lukashenko's writing challenges stereotypes and confronts racism, contributing to a wider movement of truth-telling and Indigenous storytelling in Australia. We also discovered that the use of portable buildings in Victorian schools is on the rise due to growing student enrolments. While the Victorian School Building Authority sees portable classrooms as a cost-effective solution, principals argue that they are taking up valuable open play spaces and neglecting existing schools in need of upgrades. In other news, the accounting profession is facing a shortage of accountants as fewer people are choosing accounting careers. Stagnant pay compared to other fields and declining enrollments in accounting programs are contributing factors. To attract more students, professors are revamping course descriptions and integrating current topics like blockchain and cryptocurrency into the curriculum. However, ultimately, pay for accountants will need to rise to entice more students to pursue the field. In the realm of food, plant-based meat manufacturers are striving to rebrand their products as a healthy option. Falling sales and concerns over additives and processing have affected the industry. To combat this, companies like Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods are emphasizing the health benefits of their products and addressing consumer concerns about additives. Moving on, we learned that millennials and baby boomers actually share many attitudes and values, contrary to popular belief. A study by researchers at Nuffield College, Oxford, found that the two generations have similar views on affordable housing and social care spending. The main area of disagreement is immigration, but overall, both generations are sensitive to the challenges faced by the other. We also explored the recent entrepreneurship boom, which may not be sustainable in the long term. While there was a surge in business creation during the pandemic, it is uncertain whether this trend will continue, especially as remote work patterns evolve. The study found that the businesses created during the pandemic tend to be smaller and less likely to survive. In Canada, there is a concerning rise in the use of 3D printed ghost guns in crimes. However, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, does not collect statistics on their use, raising concerns about the lack of data and understanding of the issue. Experts are calling for more comprehensive data collection to address this growing problem. And finally, Russian President Vladimir Putin has claimed that Ukraine would not survive for more than a week without Western military and financial aid. This statement comes amidst concerns that political turmoil in the US could jeopardize crucial aid to Ukraine. EU Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell also highlighted that Europe cannot fill the funding gap left by the US. That's all for today's news summary. Remember, these are just a few highlights, and there's always more to explore. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on these stories? Do you have any questions or ideas to share? Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.